Hello, I'm Michael Finn, holistic exercise and lifestyle coach, and today I'm going to talk about the squat. So squatting is something that we do every day, whether we're sitting down or getting in and out of a car, or sometimes even just, squatting all the way down to pick something up, or picking up our kid, or anything along those lines, or even if you're going to go use the toilet. So we've got to be able to squat. We need to be able to do this throughout our entire life. So I'm going to go over kind of the 5 basic parts of our movement that we need to have to function well in the squat. So our 5 basic forms of movement are flexibility, stability, endurance strength, maximal strength, and then power. Okay, and we have to develop all of those basically one at a time. So the first one is flexibility. Do we have enough flexibility to perform in the squat? So, we'll start here at the hips. We'll go down to the knees and then into the ankle. Although we need some flexibility in the back too, because everybody should be able to squat down low enough to where you can touch the ground without a problem. Okay, that's basically where it needs to be. We don't have to be able to squat all the way to where your butt gets to your heels, but we should be able to get down low enough to where we can touch the floor, okay? So it's really chilly this morning. I haven't stretched out. I kind of did that purposely because I have to stretch before I do my own squat workout because of scar tissue and old injuries in me and stuff like that, so that I can perform well, all right? So we'll start at the hip. So I can bring my knees up fairly high without moving my spine or anything like that. A lot of that comes from doing the drills for my sprint workout. So that's fairly simple to tell. But another way to tell would be to lay down on the floor, and you want to make sure that you don't flatten your back down. You want to keep the arch that's there. So you put your legs out straight, keep that arch just like it is by putting that hand there behind the back so you can feel where your back doesn't move. And you want to bring this knee in as close as you can without flattening the back or lifting the tailbone up off the floor. And so, right about there. And so you want this angle here to be less than 90 degrees. So that would be about 90. You want that to be less than 90 degrees. You want it to be more like that so that you can show that you can have a pretty good squat in there. All right? You want to check the other side too. Same kind of thing. And that one might actually even be a little bit looser than the other one. And then you can also do double knees. Same thing. And yes, my left one's a little bit looser. So that would be one that I would want to stretch. So, and then the way we could stretch that is we could do a little glute stretch in a 90-90 position. Try to get that glute around on the other side stretched out. Okay, that would be one thing to look at. The other thing to be looking at would be the hamstring. So this is probably going to be a little tight because I did my sprint workout yesterday. So having the one knee on the ground, having the other leg out in front with that leg all the way extended, pulling up on those toes and stretching out that hamstring. Okay, doing that on that side. So checking the other side too, stretching those hamstrings out. All right, you'll see other videos of mine of stretching all 3 heads of the hamstrings, but typically doing this one a little bit will allow me to get a little deeper into the squat. All right, so that's the hip. Okay, low back, also really important to have a little bit of flexibility and motion in there too. So it's like, can that round all the way out? I can very easily get to my toes. So, but if we need to stretch that out, we can do a little lumbar stretch in through here with our legs bent, with our feet out in front, grab a hold of those heels. Try to roll your pelvis back that way by pushing with your legs to roll your pelvis that way, and pull your chin down and your chest down in between your legs so that you're trying to get a good stretch through the lumbar spine through here, and try to open up all of that, and then big breaths deep into that. Okay? So now we've got lumbar spine, hips. They're more mobile for into the squat now. So now how about knees? Okay? So can the knees actually flex the way they should? So you could test a little bit this way by, can you get that all the way close? So I have a big hole in this meniscus, so it's a little tight. I always have to warm it up and get lots of lubrication in there first. You'll see that that side goes much easier. All right, so we can improve that by coming down here and putting a foot up on the wall behind us and the knee down the floor, bringing that other foot out in front, and then coming all the way up tall. All right, this is my tight side, so a little tough to get my butt all the way back to my heel by tucking everything under and just pushing that all the way back. A little bit tough, but if I do this a good 2-3 times on each side, especially an extra time or two on my right side like I'm doing right now, this will open all that up and it will allow me to get deeper into that stretch. And then I'm going to want to check out the other side too, which I showed you. That side's a little bit looser. So this side, all the way to the heel, not a problem. So I'll just do this like once just to open it up so that that's all good. Okay? So that's the knee joint. Now the ankle. Is the ankle flexible enough to get all the way down into a deep squat? So we should have a good 10 degrees. So you see I'm lifting the toe up there. We should be able to lift that toe up a good 10 degrees so that we know that we have good range of motion there as well as forward. One other thing you can do as a test also, I recommend that you have like a little step to sit on when you do this. So as we can see, if we can actually come down into a deep squat while keeping our heels down on the floor so that we're sitting all the way down like this, all right? And so I will turn a little bit so you can see that my right one is pretty close to the floor, but it's up a little bit. And if I turn around this way, you'll see that my left one is actually up a little bit more. That ankle's been sprained a number of times, and so it's got a little more scar tissue in it, so it needs to work a little bit too. So I will stretch those by coming up onto a step, dropping that heel down, ball the foot's up there on the step with some good traction, really trying to relax down into that and breathe that, having the leg straight. I'm trying to reach down towards the floor with my heel, and I'm trying to lengthen up through the rest of my body towards the ceiling so I get a good stretch into the calf. Big breaths all the way in, all the way out. Okay, and then the other side, other foot. Big breaths all the way in, all the way out. Okay, with that nice straight leg that way. Okay, then we can also do it with a bent knee, and that's going to be more helpful at the bottom of the squat. So having that bent knee and sinking that down that way, and then the same thing on the other side, sinking that down that way. This is the tight one. I'm going to hold this one just a little bit longer. So, but all stretches should be held for a good 30 to 60 seconds. I tend to count my breaths more, and big breath in, big relax into that stretch. And then the other way we can stretch them out a little bit is to do exactly what I showed to how we can tell, is come down here and come forward and just kind of sink into it. So I'm going to sink into my left calf over here a little bit and just try to drive that down into the floor and work that out. Okay, nothing should really cause pain. You might feel some stretch in there and work, but nothing we do should ever really cause pain. If something hurts, well, we need to figure out why it's hurting and what we need to do differently. All right, so got a little bit looser, but it's still a little bit tight in there. I would actually normally do a little bit more to loosen that up a little bit. It's a little tight this morning. Like I said, it's first thing in the morning and it's kind of chilly. So that's flexibility. So now I have all the flexibility that I need for squatting to make my squat better, and that's why now my squat feels a little better. So stability. So we need to make sure that we have stability in all of our joints, our ankles, our knees, our hips, and all that is kind of normal. A little harder to test, but can you stand on one foot? How hard is that? Can you stand on one foot on the other side? How hard is that? All right. Sometimes it's a little harder for me to stand on my left foot than it is my right foot. It's a little bit less stable. So we can wake it up a little bit. We can do some side stepping, one side, other side, one side, other side, and balancing on one foot. While we do that, kind of wake up all the little stabilizers in the muscles So, and get all of them going. There's other tests that I will do with clients to see if their external hip rotators and their internal hip rotators are actually stabilizing everything the way they should, because sometimes you'll see people squat and their knees will come in. That's typically because the external hip rotators are too weak and or turned off, and they can't stabilize their hip joint while they're going down into a squat. And that's why their knees end up collapsing in. So you'll also see people walk, especially older people, their feet will tend to be turned out a little bit and their knees will turn in a little bit and their hips will be all tipped forward. That's instability and a lack of strength through the hip. All right. So a little bit of stability there. You can also use a stability ball, and you can do a little test sitting on the ball. Can you sit on top of the ball with just one foot on the ground? Okay, with a nice tall spine and everything comfy there. You can do a little bit of a walking one direction and walking the other direction and building things up that way as well, so that you get some good stability that way. There's another good way to get stability of doing a ball bridge, being up with your head, neck, and shoulders supported on the ball, and dropping the hips down and coming back up, so that we build some good stability that way. If you get really good at that, you can do it on one foot. All right, so that we develop stability and make sure that we have a little bit of stability. Okay, so flexibility, stability, both those things can be worked on at the same time without a problem, and you want to accomplish that first before we start getting into strength. So those are the first two. Third out of the 5 is strength endurance. Do we have strength endurance to actually do squats? So can we actually squat 20, 25 times all the way down to where we can touch the floor, keeping our chest up, keeping our eyes up, keeping our hips up, dropping all the way down, all the way back up? I can actually do it while I'm talking. So, because it's not a problem, I have the strength endurance. Now, if it's too difficult to do that with your whole body weight, once again, we can develop that by doing that exercise again. This is a bridge exercise. Just make sure that that head, neck, and shoulders are all supported in the ball. You sink all the way down. You push those heels, you come all the way up. You use those glutes to come up with. You pull those low abs up. And you can work it that way. You can also give yourself a little bit of supporting help by putting the ball behind your back and doing some squats that way. And that will take a little bit of the load off too. All right, so a couple of different ways that you can start to develop the endurance strength if you don't have the endurance strength to do 25 plus squats yet. So now we've done that. Maximal strength. What are the heaviest objects over the course of a year that you're ever going to have to pick up? Laundry basket, child, things like that. Okay, so we always have laundry baskets around the house. My wife has yard work that she wants done. Sometimes we'll buy topsoil, and it'll be in a 20 or 40 pound bag. So I need to make sure that I can actually handle squatting and picking up those sort of things. All right, so in life, it's very rare that we have a bunch of weight strapped onto our back, unless maybe you're a hunter and you're bringing your animal home that you caught and killed. So maybe that's going to be on your back and that's going to be part of it. But a lot of times we pick things up in front of us. So I'm just going to use the ball at the moment. Even though this isn't a heavy ball, I can use a medicine ball, or I can use a dumbbell in my hands or something like that. But I want to use something that's going to have some sort of weight to it that is going to challenge me, just like something that I'm going to deal with in life. Like I said, like a 40 pound bag of soil or something like that. So, and I can hold this out in front of me and I can do my squats that way. All right, and then I don't need to do as many because now we're talking maximal strength. So somewhere in the range of like 4 times to 12 times. 4 times is going to give you that good maximal strength effort, and 12 times is actually going to help you build and maintain your muscle mass a little bit, which is definitely important for those of us that are getting older, which we all are. So we want to make sure that we maintain that muscle mass by keeping a good load on there and doing a good 8 to 12 repetitions. That will help keep your muscle mass. All right, so now that's strength. Endurance strength for the multiple repetitions, maximal strength with some weight so that you can actually maintain the strength to do all the heavy things in your life. And the last thing, you want to make sure you have all of that before you get to power. And power is what a movement is that we complete in 1 second or less. All right? Any movement there it is. That's power. Whether it's punching, whether it's kicking, whether it's jumping, which is kind of what we're going to do. All those things are power. Okay? So, in our squat, we will basically do a little jump. So if you're ever going to jump, I recommend that you either jump up onto something that's very stable, or you just do a little jump on the floor. Okay? So that it's not jumping down from something. People talk about doing depth jumps. They're really hard on the body, and I don't ever recommend them to be done, except for very high-end world-class athletes, and that's pretty much about it. So jump on the floor is easy. We'll do that first. So it's just doing a little jump, okay? Jumping a little bit, being soft on the feet, landing soft, all right? We can make it bigger. We can do bigger jumps, okay? Or we can do it small to start. I recommend small to start and then getting bigger. And then we can also go up onto an object and then stepping down, and up onto an object and then stepping down. All right, so that's our squat exercise. Anything down in through here, dropping all the way down, making sure you have the range of motion to touch the ground, making sure you have the stability, building strength, endurance, building maximal strength, and then building power in your squat, even if it's laterally, because that's what we want. All right, so there's your squat exercise. We need to look at that for every movement we do: squatting, lunging, bending, pushing, pulling, twisting, and walking. We need to make sure we have the flexibility, the stability, the strength, endurance, the maximal strength, and the power to do it throughout our entire life. All right, got any questions? Leave me some comments. Reach out to me on my website, finfit.com. And I look forward to seeing you at the next video. Have a happy and healthy day.